Edward sat alone in the house, the heavy summer air pressing through the half-drawn curtains. His mother had gone out to run errands, leaving him with strict instructions to behave. Yet his eyes drifted again and again toward the closed wardrobe in Charlotte's room. Inside hung the crisp uniform of the Deveraux Academy, an emblem of discipline, etiquette, and refinement. The very thought of it made his chest tighten. He knew he shouldn't. He knew if his mother caught him, her disapproval would be absolute, but temptation gnawed at him like a persistent voice. The quiet of the house offered both safety and risk. He rose from the chair slowly, almost against his will, every creak of the floorboard reminding him of how serious a mistake this could be. He placed his hand on the wardrobe handle, heart pounding. Once opened, there would be no turning back. With a slow breath, Edward opened the wardrobe doors. The scent of lavender sachets drifted out, perfectly placed by Charlotte to keep her clothing fresh. Inside, each garment hung with military precision, pressed, ordered, disciplined. And there it was, the full Deveraux Academy uniform. A pale cream blouse with a high collar and pearl buttons, a pleated navy skirt trimmed with lace, a blazer bearing the Academy crest, and beneath neatly folded stockings and polished shoes. He reached out a trembling hand, tracing the embroidered crest with his finger. The uniform looked stern, commanding respect, yet impossibly delicate. It was not simply clothing, it was the symbol of a world where refinement was law and etiquette enforced without exception. Edward hesitated, but temptation overcame him. He unhooked the hanger and lifted the blouse into the light. The fabric shimmered faintly, as though daring him to take the next step. Edward's hands trembled as he lifted the blouse from its hanger. The fabric was lighter than he expected, cool against his fingertips, and the pearl buttons glimmered sternly in the afternoon light. His heart raced. He knew every second in this uniform was forbidden, yet curiosity pressed harder than fear. He slipped one arm through the sleeve, then the other, the material whispering as it settled against his skin. Button by button he fastened it, each click of pearl into fabric sounding louder than the last in the silent room. When he reached the collar, he swallowed hard, forcing the stiff band to sit properly around his neck. In the mirror, he caught his reflection, half boy, half something else. His posture straightened without thought, as though the blouse itself demanded obedience. For a moment, he almost believed he looked presentable, almost proper, almost like one of the Academy's pupils. Edward's pulse quickened as he reached for the skirt. It hung stiffly on its hanger, pleats pressed to razor edges, every fold a silent reminder of Charlotte's discipline. With fumbling hands, he stepped into it, tugging the fabric over his hips until it settled firmly at his waist. The weight of the garment surprised him. It wasn't flimsy but structured, designed to enforce posture and modesty. He caught his reflection again in the mirror, the cream blouse tucked neatly into the dark navy pleats, the sharp lines contrasting against his uncertainty. His fingers smoothed the skirt nervously, as though afraid to crease it. Next came the stockings, folded in perfect pairs at the bottom of the wardrobe. He sat rigidly on the chair, sliding them on, their fabric clinging snugly to his legs. When he stood, he almost gasped. The outfit looked whole now, disciplined and proper. In that moment, Edward realized, this uniform transformed him more than he ever imagined. At the bottom of the wardrobe, Edward spotted the polished black shoes. Their shine was almost severe, reflecting the sunlight in hard lines. He bent down carefully, sliding his feet into them one by one. The fit was snug, the stiff leather pressing against his toes, forcing him to stand straighter. When he rose, the mirror revealed a sharper image than before. The crisp blouse, the pleated navy skirt, and now the shoes that anchored him with authority. On the wardrobe door hung a simple navy ribbon, carefully tied in a bow. Edward lifted it, uncertain, then brushed his hair back and clumsily knotted it above his forehead. It wasn't neat, not like Charlotte's perfectly tied bows, but it changed his reflection. For the first time, he looked less like a boy playing dress-up, and more like a figure the Academy itself might inspect. He swallowed nervously, his chest tightening as though he were already under their gaze. The house had been silent, every tick of the clock loud enough to rattle Edward's nerves. But then, it changed. A faint sound drifted up from downstairs, the creak of the front door, the solid click as it shut, and the unmistakable rhythm of footsteps crossing the hall. His stomach lurched. Mother. She wasn't meant to be back so soon. Panic gripped him, his eyes darting to the wardrobe, to the mirror, to the strict, proper reflection staring back at him in the academy uniform. His fingers clawed at the ribbon in his hair, but it tangled, refusing to come loose. The shoes, stiff and unforgiving, weighed him down as he stumbled backwards. The footsteps grew clearer, steady and deliberate, as though every step announced judgment. Edward froze. He could already picture her stern expression, the sharp disappointment in her eyes. There was no time left. The uniform he had dared to wear was now his trap. The bedroom door swung open with sudden force, and Edward froze like a guilty statue. His mother, Mrs. Hargrave, stood framed in the doorway, her eyes narrowing the moment they fell upon him. The sight of her son in Charlotte's strict Deveraux Academy uniform, blouse perfectly buttoned, pleated skirt pressed, shoes gleaming, was enough to drain the color from her face. For a heartbeat, silence ruled the room, broken only by the ticking clock. Then came her voice, sharp as glass.
"Edward Hargrave,"
she snapped, each syllable weighted with outrage.
"What on earth do you think you are doing?"
Edward stammered, his throat dry, his hands clawing at the hem of the skirt as though he could undo the crime. But the uniform clung to him, every crease and fold exposing him further. His mother's posture was rigid, her gaze unyielding. He knew at once there would be no excuses, no escape, only discipline. Mrs. Hargrave's voice rose like a whip through the stillness of the room.
"Do you have any idea what you've done, Edward? This is not a game. This uniform represents discipline, respect, and tradition. And you dare to treat it like a costume,"
she thundered, stepping inside with her arms folded. Her sharp gaze traveled from his polished shoes to the ribbon in his hair, taking in every stolen detail of Charlotte's uniform. Edward's mouth opened, but no words came, only a strangled sound of shame. Her words struck harder than any blow, each one pressing his shoulders lower. He wanted to tear the blazer from his back, but his hands stayed frozen, trembling at his sides. The room felt smaller under her stern authority. Edward lowered his eyes, cheeks burning, while his mother's expression hardened further.
"You will remain exactly as you are until Charlotte comes home and sees this disgrace for herself,"
she declared. Edward's throat tightened as he tried to form words.
I didn't mean...
His hands fumbled at the hem of the skirt, tugging as though he might hide it, but the gesture only made his mother's glare deepen.
"Silence!"
she ordered sharply, and Edward's breath caught. Still, the need to defend himself clawed its way out.
I only wanted to see what it was like. I wasn't going to keep it on.
The words tumbled in a rush, his cheeks crimson with humiliation. His mother's eyes narrowed further, her jaw set like iron.
"And does that excuse your disobedience? Does that erase the insult you've given your sister's uniform?"
she demanded. Edward's head dropped, shame spreading through him like fire. The polished shoes felt unbearably heavy, the blazer too tight, the ribbon pulling cruelly at his hair.
"I'm sorry,"
he whispered, though even he knew it sounded feeble against her unrelenting authority. Mrs. Hargrave let the silence linger, her son trembling under her gaze. At last she spoke, her tone low and unyielding.
"You will not remove a single piece,"
she declared. Edward's head shot up, eyes wide with disbelief.
"Mother, please. I'll take it off now. I'll put everything back. No one will know."
"Enough. You chose to dress yourself in what does not belong to you. Now you will bear the consequences. You will remain in that uniform until your sister returns home. She will see with her own eyes what you have done. You will learn that Every choice has its cost.
Edward's heart thudded painfully in his chest. The thought of Charlotte's laughter, her sharp tongue, was unbearable. He opened his mouth to protest, but his mother's stare silenced him. Edward lowered his head, trapped by the very uniform he had dared to wear. The words struck Edward harder than any blow. His knees weakened as the full weight of his mother's decree sank in. He stood rigid in the mirror's reflection, unable to look away from the image staring back. A boy dressed in the disciplined uniform of Deveraux Academy, stripped of dignity, trapped in shame. The polished shoes gleamed mockingly. The pleats of the skirt held their sharp lines, as if to remind him of his crime, and the blazer's crest burned on his chest like a mark of guilt. Edward's throat tightened. He wanted to disappear, to melt into the floorboards, but the uniform refused to let him hide. His mother remained unmoved, arms folded, her eyes sharp with authority.
You will stay neat, Edward, not a ribbon out of place. If you must wear it, you will wear it properly.
He nodded faintly, cheeks burning, realizing that his punishment was only just beginning. The clock ticked with merciless precision, each second stretching into eternity. Edward sat stiffly on the edge of the bed, the pleated skirt fanned neatly across his lap, the polished shoes planted firmly on the floor. His mother had left the room, but not without warning. Do not move a thing. When your sister comes home, you will be exactly as you are now. The words echoed in his ears, heavier than the summer heat pressing through the curtains. Edward dared not slouch. The blazer's stiff fabric seemed to scold any hint of laziness. The ribbon in his hair tugged tightly, reminding him of the transformation he had chosen and the punishment he now endured. Minutes dragged into hours. He tried not to think of Charlotte's arrival, but the thought gnawed at him. Every sound from outside, the creak of a carriage, the laughter of children, made his heart leap with dread. The waiting was its own torment. As the long afternoon wore on, Edward's nerves frayed further. Every creak of the floorboards, every murmur from outside, set his heart racing. He sat upright, hands folded neatly in his lap as if still under his mother's watchful eye, but inside he was crumbling. The uniform pressed down on him like armor too heavy to bear, the stiff collar chafing at his throat, the pleats immovable, the polished shoes pinching his feet. He stared at the clock, each tick hammering home the approach of Charlotte's return. He could picture her walking through the door in her flawless Deveraux uniform, her posture proud, her ribbon tied perfectly. What would she say when she saw him like this? Edward's stomach twisted. Part of him longed to run and hide, but the echo of his mother's command pinned him in place. The more he imagined his sister's reaction, the more unbearable the waiting became. At last the sound Edward dreaded cut through the silence. The latch of the front door, the swish of skirts, and the steady rhythm of footsteps climbing the stairs. His stomach dropped. Charlotte had returned. The bedroom door opened smoothly, and there she stood, immaculate in her own Deveraux Academy uniform. Her navy blazer fitted perfectly, the pleated skirt sharp and flawless, her ribbon tied with precision in her glossy hair. She carried herself with the air of a young lady trained in discipline and elegance, her books held neatly against her side. Her eyes flicked to Edward, and in an instant, the stillness shattered. A smile spread across her face, slow and incredulous. With amusement, she stepped closer, studying him from head to toe, her laughter just beginning to bubble in her throat. Edward's cheeks burned, the humiliation tightening around him as his sister's gaze settled. Charlotte's composure lasted only seconds before her laughter rang out, sharp and merciless. She clutched her books to her chest, nearly doubling over as the sound spilled into the room.
Oh, Edward, look at you. You're actually wearing it, all of it.
Her eyes danced over his polished shoes, the pleated skirt, the stiff blazer with its golden crest. Each detail only fueled her amusement. Edward's face burned crimson, his hands twisting anxiously in his lap.
Please, Charlotte, don't.
He begged, but his words were swallowed by her laughter. She twirled once in her own uniform as if to highlight the contrast. her ribbons bouncing neatly.
You look utterly ridiculous, like a boy trying and failing to be a young lady. My, the blouse is tucked neatly, the skirt sits just so, and even the ribbon is in place. How thorough of you, Edward. Do you know it almost suits you? You've always been the smaller one, haven't you? More delicate. You should thank me for keeping my wardrobe so tidy. Otherwise, how else would you have the chance to play at being a young lady?
She teased, her voice dripping with mock elegance. He shifted uncomfortably, but her gaze pinned him where he sat. Charlotte tilted her head, her golden crest catching the light. Edward flushed crimson, his hands balling into fists at his sides. Charlotte leaned closer, her tone sharp with mock sweetness. Her smile widened, merciless and amused. Charlotte gave a sharp little clap of her hands. She ordered, her tone leaving no room for argument. Edward hesitated, but under her piercing gaze he rose stiffly from the bed. She guided him to the tall mirror, tugging his sleeve until he stood directly beside her. Their reflections stared back, two figures in identical Deveraux Academy uniforms, yet worlds apart. Charlotte's posture was flawless, every detail immaculate, her ribbon perfectly tied, her pleats razor-sharp, her shoes gleaming with polish. Edward, by contrast, stood awkwardly, his ribbon slightly askew, his collar too tight, his expression one of pure misery. Charlotte tilted her chin smugly, examining them both as though she were a mistress of ceremony.
See the difference? One of us looks every inch the proper young lady. The other, well, let's just say you'll need a great deal of practice.
Edward's face burned hotter still. Charlotte's smirk deepened as she studied their reflection.
You know, you don't look half so bad. In fact, I'd say you look rather sweet, little sister. What? Isn't that what you want? To be my twin at the academy? Let's sort out the ribbon in your hair. There, much better. You mustn't let yourself look sloppy. Presentation is everything. Oh, look, your cheeks are burning. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you my younger sister, Edwardina?
She gave a mocking curtsy, her skirt flaring gracefully, while Edward stood frozen, mortified. His mother's faint smile from the corner confirmed it. There would be no rescue from Charlotte's cruel amusement. Edward dared a glance toward his mother, hoping, just faintly, that she might put an end to Charlotte's relentless mockery. But Mrs. Hargrave's expression betrayed no sympathy. Her arms remained folded, her gaze cool and deliberate. In fact, a faint curve at the corner of her lips suggested something far worse: approval.
It seems your brother has finally discovered the meaning of discipline. Perhaps he needed to see for himself what true standards look like.
Oh, I quite agree, Mother. He does make a rather convincing pupil, don't you think?
Edward's heart sank, his shame complete. Not only would his sister torment him, but his mother would allow it, encourage it even. The weight of the uniform pressed down more heavily than ever. With nowhere to hide, he stood rooted in place, caught between his sister's jeers and his mother's cold approval. Edward lowered his gaze, unable to meet the eyes of either his mother or sister. His hands twisted nervously at the hem of the pleated skirt, but he dared not fidget too much. His mother's warning echoed in his ears. If you must wear it, you will wear it properly. The fabric clung to him with oppressive weight, every crease a reminder of his punishment. Inside, shame churned, hot and unrelenting. Yet beneath it, a strange, unwelcome flutter stirred, an awareness that the uniform reshaped not only his appearance, but his very presence. He loathed the feeling, but could not shake it. Charlotte, still smirking, stood tall beside him, her posture flawless, her confidence unshaken. Edward felt smaller than ever, as though the blazer itself had reduced him to a pupil awaiting correction. He kept silent, his torment playing out within, while their watchful eyes kept him pinned like a specimen on display. Charlotte tilted her head, her smirk widening as a mischievous thought lit her eyes.
Do you know what, Mother? I think Edward should come with me to the Deveraux Academy. He already looks halfway presentable. With proper training, they could make a young lady out of him yet. Look at you, Edward. Your jaw just dropped. Why not? You've already got the uniform. You've already got the posture forced upon you. Perhaps you'd enjoy lessons in curtsying, deportment, and etiquette.
Mrs. Hargrave's eyes narrowed, considering the idea far too seriously for Edward's comfort. He shrank under their combined gaze, his breath quickening. The thought of stepping into the academy halls dressed like this was unbearable, but neither his mother nor sister seemed willing to dismiss it. The rest of the evening passed in slow, unforgiving silence. Edward remained in the uniform exactly as commanded, blouse buttoned, pleats sharp, shoes polished, ribbon fixed firmly in place. Each tick of the clock seemed to mock him, each reflection in the mirror a cruel reminder of what he had become. He could not escape the words that now echoed endlessly in his thoughts. "You should come with me to the Deveraux Academy. By the end of summer, you'll be ready." The taunt repeated again and again until it almost felt less like Charlotte's voice and more like a decree written into his very punishment. Every movement reminded him of his disgrace. The pinch of the shoes, the stiffness of the blazer, the tug of the ribbon in his hair, all pressed the same lesson upon him. He was trapped in the role he had chosen. And yet, beneath the shame, the idea of the academy gnawed at him. What if his mother truly meant it? What if Charlotte's cruel suggestion became reality at the start of the new term? The evening darkened, the house settling into quiet, but Edward's torment only deepened. He could not shake the vision, himself not merely in his sister's uniform at home, but walking through the great doors of the Deveraux Academy, a place where discipline ruled, where every glance, every step, every word was measured and trained. The thought lingered, heavy and inescapable. As the summer holiday slipped slowly toward its end, Edward knew this was not finished. It was only the beginning,